It's easy to hear your favorite artist on WFPK from wherever you are. Listen on your smart speaker, live stream from our website at WFPK.org from Louisville Public Media.
Consequence Podcast Network.
And welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence of Sound, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Big hello to all of you who checked out, well, first are listening right now, listening to this episode, but especially those who subscribe to the series, listen to multiple interviews. We put them out, new ones every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So if you'd like to keep up with us, hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening from right now, or any of your favorite podcast landing spots like iTunes and Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your favorite ones. Just type in Kyle Meredith with. Hit subscribe. We will take care of the rest. That way you are able to keep up with all of your favorite artists and discover new ones, know what's happening in the music world. Always appreciate every bit of it. I'm Kyle Meredith, and today I'm going to be talking with the Sounds. In fact, Jesper is on the line. We're going to be discussing the brand new record called Things We Do for Love. It's their first full-length in quite a while. So, of course, we're going to be talking about the time they took away from it. Now, there was an EP in the middle, so there's a bit of an asterisk to that whole thing. But there was also a legitimate extended break, and that was time that was very important for the band to get away from, especially a band that's been around for 20 years. So not only will we get into the importance of that, but refinding the fire that you need to write relevant, immediate music when you're this far into your career. Now, of course, some of those songs, not only that they started writing over the last few years, but even earlier ones from their career have taken on new meanings, as have many songs for many artists since the pandemic set in. And that's something that does happen. It's an interesting thing that happens with songs. So we'll discuss a little bit about that occurrence. And since they are a band that's been around for so long, what it's like to know your sound, know what the audience expects from you, and taking care of your legacy within that sound. We'll also get into some fun stuff, like using darkness as a tool for writing, and the importance of vibe with this band. In fact, we're going to talk a little bit about the Blade Runner soundtrack, which has a very specific vibe that the band turns to from time to time. But we'll get started, as a lot of artists have with the pandemic, you've had to get creative, and the Sounds are no different. Instead of a big release show, well, they sort of played a big concert to an invisible crowd. So that's where we'll start kind of hearing what that experience is like. So let's jump into it, discussing the record Things We Do for Love. It's Kyle Meredith with The Sounds.
Hey, how are you doing?
I got to tell you, listening to this record and the Things We Do for Love, it's been so much fun what you all are doing at this point in your career. You can't always count on a band to stay exciting, after they've been around for, a couple decades, and you all are definitely doing some exciting music. So first, congratulations on this.
Thank you very much. That's really fun to hear. Appreciate it.
Going into it, kind of back up a little bit because, the record just about getting released and everything. But of course, everything has been put on pause and moved around, and people are getting kind of creative with what they're doing out there. You all were able to play a full show online, a streaming show for everybody, which was really, really cool to be able to pull that off. I do wonder, what was it like playing to an invisible crowd, basically?
It's actually pretty hard to describe, because at first it feels like a long sound check. You know what I mean? You're standing there and there's no one. There's an empty room, so you kind of used to being into a sound check. But I think I definitely think it was toughest for Maya, because she's kind of she usually interacts a lot with the audience, and that feeds out of that energy a lot from the audience. So for her, I think it was more weird than for us, because we used to keeping the beat and keeping the whole momentum of the music going. And so for me personally, I didn't really notice anything. I didn't feel weird until after the first song, when you're so used to hearing the audience cheer, and that's the first time I heard, like, Jesus, it's completely empty. And then some people in the production, the film team and such, they started to applaud, and they were like 6 people or something. And I was like, no, don't applaud, because that's even worse, because now it really feels like we're back in 1999 when we didn't have a crew or an audience. So just don't clap, just let it be quiet. But we're used to be playing together, the five of us, and we sometimes actually it's more fun to play in front of fewer people than a lot of people. I remember us doing a show in Myrtle Beach over 10 years ago at one of those House of Blues, and that was kind of like playing a live stream because it was really. I think that place holds like 2,000 people, and we're like maybe 200 people there, so it was really empty. But that was actually one of our best shows we ever done because you get kind of a lot of energy and excitement when you have nothing else to lose, if you know what I mean. So I had a great time at least. So
it's cool. I do love that. Please don't clap. I totally get where that's coming from too. That's you have moments like this, when the world kind of changes and things happen and you can look back at your songs. Do you find that some of your songs take on new context? A song like Great Day, and even more recently, a song like Safe and Sound. Do you find those songs can like speak to new moments in this way?
For sure, especially Safe and Sound obviously came in the right time, if you can say like that without sounding too harsh. And also a Great Day. I remember doing this playlist for Spin magazine, and my manager told me like, yeah, it's a great list, but you should add Great Day. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't even reflect on it myself, but I actually listened to that song the other day, and that song also resonates well of the situation we're in at the moment. I wrote those lyrics, because I was so sick of the media, and it's also and every time there's a crisis like this, the media just jumps on it, and for obvious reasons as well. But after a while, it just gets too much, and there's basically no other news nowadays. So I think that song, and especially Safe and Sound, really resonates well into the current situation in the world. So that's interesting. You pointed out that.
And getting into this record right here, I know one of the stories is, as fans, we've noticed, it was a little bit longer than usual, and that happens. I think most bands get to the point where putting out a record does take a little bit longer. I don't think that should be surprising to anyone, but I do wonder, like, how important was this time away for you all to get back into this record?
I think it was really, absolutely necessary, especially for me and Felix, maybe, especially because we've been maybe the ones that's been pulling the most weights in the studio during the past 15 years, but also for, opening up for other members to, contribute songs, which they've done on this album, which I think is great. Some of the best songs we've done, it's done on this album. And I think it's, for me personally, I had two kids. I, felt I had to learn something else than just music. So I became an electrotechnician, computer scientist. So that's what I've been doing. But also, having two kids, Maya had a kid. However, we did release an EP in 2016. So we haven't been completely, but that kind of went under the radar for many people. But I think it's, when you've been doing something for 20 years, we come to a point where we start thinking like, is this my life? Is this what I want to do? If I want to do it, continue doing it, how should I find angles to find more energy, more strength to write songs that I haven't written yet and that I want to write, and inspiration and, all all of those things kind of only happens when you step away from it. And I remember the same thing for the second album or third album. Me and Felix was in the studio like constantly, and we both had like, how are we gonna move forward with this album? So we just decided like, hey, you go on vacation for a week. I go on vacation for a week, and I went to Poland for a week. Don't ask me why, but I did. And when we came back, we were like, so much energy and so much new motivation to keep writing. And I think that's something you have to do sometimes. You shouldn't be afraid of it.
And it's not like you all like stopped writing during that whole time. As you mentioned, the EP was in there, but even the Things We Do for Love, that, as I read, you all had, that goes back nearly a decade, right? Yeah,
that was actually a demo me and Frederick did 8 years ago or something. And some of the songs that I wrote for the album, I did, in the same era as the EP. And then Felix came back, wrote some songs with Maya, and Maya wrote some songs with Frederick. So it's, we've been writing all this time. Maybe it's just been taking a little bit longer, and, what directions we should go and stuff like that. It's taken a little bit longer, but to be fair, the whole album has actually been done for over a year. So it took a long time to find the right label and shit like that.
Do you when you're talking about the record and the directions to go and everything, do you ever find that you wrestle with capturing a classic sound that people, might expect versus how to move forward? Is that part of the conversation?
Absolutely. I mean, I think for every album, you try to move the comfort level a little bit further. And I'm not saying that you always succeed, because at some point this is actually it's an interesting question. And it's pretty hard to express exactly what I mean. But for a band like us that's been together for 20 years, it's almost like one of the hardest things is to find a common ground for the five of us to move forward. And even if we try to change our sound in one direction, we've done this basically for all the albums we've had, it's that you always end up sounding like we do. And in the beginning, it's that's like a curse that you have as a band. Like when you're so sick of your sound, you maybe have the first and the second album, and everybody keeps talking about, oh, you sound like that, you sound like that, you sound like that. But so it almost feels like a curse. We can't get out of this the way we're sounding. But after a while, for 20 years now, we've been together. It's almost like, hey, that is our sound. That's the sound we've been looking for basically for 20 years, and that's the sound that people refer to as, oh, you sound like it sounds, instead of us sounding like, oh, you sound like Missing Person, as it was in the beginning, or Metric or Blondie. So now we're that band that, we have our sound, and we should probably take care of it. It's our legacy in one way.
Well, and there, I should point out, to be fair, there are many sounds on here, from what you get from the title track and everything. Home, I know that's features a completely different kind of sonic palette on that one, and Stay Free really sets itself apart as, a pretty straight ahead rock song. I don't know where I read it online. I do know it was some point, but I think you had mentioned that you and Frederick had been using Blade Runner soundtrack as a touch point, and maybe forever and maybe now. Which I loved. I mean, I love what happened in Blade Runner. What is it about that interests you, and how does it apply to this album?
I don't think it applies super much to this album. Maybe a little bit in one song called Miami. But it's me and Frederick, when we write music together, we talk a lot emotions. And for the Blade Runner album, is so much built on vibe, a musical vibe. And me and Frederick, when we write music, we talk a lot about in terms of what kind of vibe we want for a song, and not maybe, here needs to be a hooky chorus or whatever. We're more interested in building a sort of what vibe in the song. And Blade Runner has always been, it's not like we talk about that album every day. It's just that sometimes when I play something on piano or Frederick brings up a keyboard sound or whatever, it's like we always end up, oh, that sounds exactly like Blade Runner. But we never do anything about the music. We rarely do anything about that music. But we just, we have, I guess, a common ground when it comes to, what kind of vibe we like. And Blade Runner is one of those soundtracks. You can listen to it, at home. You can listen to it in your headphones when you fall asleep. You can kind of, it's a cool album in many ways.
You mentioned Miami, kind of being the thread to that right there. That it closes out the record, and the last line we hear is "The darkness is taking me over." I think that's the last line we hear. I think that's how the album goes out. And I thought, what an ominous little line there. I'm not sure, who wrote it, but I was kind of wondering if you could speak about, how the album wraps up with that as the lasting impact.
You've been thinking about that much more than we have, but I like it. I think it's a song that I think Frederick wrote those lyrics. I'm not sure what that song is about, because sometimes when we write, I do the music and Frederick does lyrics. But I think we had an incident in Miami on a tour not so long ago, where the nightclub owner or the club owner is got really fucked up and start to be really aggressive towards us, and as aggressive. So our tour manager had to step in, and there was a little fight, and even the security guards at the nightclub had to apologize to us for their own boss behavior. So I think that's maybe that song is about that. And the darkness, I guess, darkness is a great word when you write music, because we're Swedish, we live in darkness a lot of the time, and we write best songs when it's dark outside. And you're supposed to feel. It's hard to write songs when you're super happy. You don't have to be a miserable person to write songs, but you have to have some sort of feeling, emotion. Happy is also emotion, but when it comes to writing music, I think you need to be a little bit angry or sad or more like that when you write songs. Then, you can be a happy person generally, but when you come to the studio, try to bring out those things in you, both when it comes to chords and to lyrics. And I think that also has something to do with the EP that we released. That's a song called Darkness. So maybe that overlapped. But I have to ask him about that. Darkness is taking me over.
It is an interesting,
really dark.
Yeah, no, it's but like I said, it's a really interesting way, to things kind of end on that note right there, and maybe that's because again I'm recontextualizing a little bit myself, in the world that we live in and how it's affecting us all right now. But I do love the song. I really do like it, and Jesper, I'll go ahead and re-compliment you on the whole record, because the Things We Do for Love is such a strong outing for you all. So. Again,
Thank you very much.
Congratulations on this one, over and over and over. Man, it has been a pleasure to talk to you today. Thank you so much for doing this. Little worldwide connection here. It's always fun. Appreciate you taking the time.
You too.
I love what you guys are doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And now you can finally step out of your closet.
That's true.
And I can go with that.
All right, man.
But yeah, I appreciate it, and stay safe. You were in Kentucky, right?
Yep, in Kentucky. Yeah. So, yeah.
Hopefully you won't get hit as hard as some other places in the world.
So far, so good. No, appreciate it, and same to you. Take care out there. We'll see you around.
Yeah,
All
thank you.
All right,
bye.
My thanks to Jesper. Again, the brand new album from the Sounds is called Things We Do for Love. Thanks to Jesper. Thanks to you for checking out this episode. Again, if you're not a subscriber and you want to keep up with the series, hit that subscribe button. iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you like to get your podcasts from. We'll send you new interviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday so you can keep up with all of your favorite artists and discover some new ones, know what's happening in the music world. Just type in Kyle Meredith hit subscribe. We'll take care of the rest. After that, head to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, and bonus interviews. Again, that's WFPK.org. Consequence of Sound has your music and film news. You can also find me on just about any social media platform at Kyle Meredith. Please follow and like in the appropriate places. And that does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.
Consequence Podcast Network.
Here's a cat. Sorry. That's a scary story. There's a cat that jumped out from the dark.
Hey, I'm Jen, and I love horror movies.
I'm Mikey. I'm dead inside it. I also love horror movies.
And we really like to torture our friend Todd because he hates horror movies.
That I do. And that's why they call me the horror virgin.
That's the only reason we call him that.
I'm not, no other reasons at all.
None at all. Whatever. So
every week we take him through the Encyclopedia of Horror, the good, the bad, the ridiculously Jack Frosts.
And then we make fun of it, more or less.
Or explain its deceptive feminism.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I do. That's my thing.
And I'm the funny one. Our episodes drop on Monday, so check us out.